Hi, TJ here at Wisconsiknight, and I want to talk today about the new gun laws in Connecticut. Um, Obviously, that's in Connecticut and doesn't have a whole lot of effect on us here in Wisconsin, but it is a sign of the times, and I think we should all be paying attention to this. Connecticut passed a law that assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles needed that were manufactured after 1994 needed to be registered. They also passed a similar law in the same law saying that high capacity magazines, also known as standard capacity magazines for those guns, also needed to be registered. Failure to do so by January 1 of this year, 2014, would result in a felony if you owned those things. Where this really came to light recently was that several people in the state of Connecticut decided at the last minute that they were going to comply with this ridiculous law. And in doing so, they sent in their registration, and the registrations arrived late and were denied. So now the state has a list of gun owners that are in possession of these weapons and magazines that have been deemed illegal. So they have sent out a letter to these people. The letter tells them that they have some choices. They can keep their gun if they keep it out of state, meaning they need to find somewhere else to store it and not bring it back into the state of Connecticut. They can keep the gun if they make it permanently inoperable, which makes the gun useless. The gun that was perfectly legal a few months ago. They can sell the gun to a licensed dealer, which doesn't get rid of the gun or remove it from the state. It simply takes it out of the hands of the rightful owner. And the last option is give it to the police, turn it into law enforcement, where it may be destroyed, warehoused, or converted to department use. Guns are rarely destroyed by police departments. They are either stored or they are adopted into training or, in some cases, for actual use. None of these options allow the person who legally obtained these firearms that they are constitutionally allowed to own to keep their firearms in an operable state. Now, the obvious direction for this to go is to repeal this ridiculous, absurd law. Repealing laws take time. During the time that you're waiting for that law to be repealed, you are still in a state that considers your ownership of these items to be a felony, which means you can go to prison for this. I don't see the Connecticut, state police showing up, raiding your house, and going after your guns because there's 50,000 of them in the state of Connecticut. They don't have the manpower, the time, or the resources to do this. But they might have the time, the resources, and the manpower to go after the few people that sent in registrations after the deadline, because that list is going to be much shorter. If you are one of these people who put themselves on the radar, you can expect that somebody's going to show up and want to know what's going to happen to that gun, especially as this whole thing moves forward. So there's some very obvious problems here. Your other option, the one that I prefer, would be to move away from the state that is taking your rights away. I can't stress this enough. There's no reason that I can think of why I would want to remain in a state that doesn't respect my rights when I can go to another state, and in some cases that's a matter of moving 20 miles if you live near the border, to find a state where they do respect your rights. I know it's a lot easier said than done. I wouldn't want to have to pick up and move. I've been living in my home for quite a while. I have family and friends here. I have a decent job. I don't want to pick up and move to another state. But if I felt that my rights and my individual safety were placed in jeopardy by my state, I would be pretty hard pressed to find a good reason to stay in that situation. Like I said, I realize that is easier said than done. All of this is easier said than done, and there are no real clear answers on what to do. If somebody shows up at your house demanding your guns, what I recommend you don't do is get into a firefight with them. You are talking about a police force showing up. They're heavily armed, they're highly trained, and they're well equipped. And the one that you might be all of those things too. But what you don't have going for you is they're ready. Okay, they show up and they know what their plan is. You can have all of the guns and equipment and body armor and magic force fields that you want. It doesn't help you at all if you don't expect what's coming. So, as much as I hate to say it, the smart move would be to comply if police show up at your home, assuming that they have the proper warrants and the legal, whether it's justifiable or not, the legal right to be there. I don't like the way that sounds to say it because I don't think that they have the legal right to be there. The law is unconstitutional. However, from the standpoint of legal process, if they've got all the right warrants and paperwork, yada, 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 your only real option is to comply. Give them what they came for, send them away, get a lawyer. Now, laws like this need to be appealed. And an appeals process cannot take place until somebody has been convicted of violating the law. I know it seems like a backwards way to have to do things, but that is the way the system is designed. So if you're one of these people in Connecticut, or if you live in another state that's going the same direction, talking to New York, Colorado, California, find out what your legal rights are. Try to comply if you are asked to. Keep your mouth shut if you're not. And I would encourage you to get yourself to a better place, to a safer place, to a place that respects your rights, and be vocal about it. If you decide to move out of your oppressive state, make sure that you let your legislatures know that you moved out of that state. Send them letters telling them that you left the state. Tell them why. Tell them you're taking your tax money with you. If you employed people, tell them you're taking your jobs with you. Don't go quietly into that good night. But as soon as night falls, I would be moving out. And that's all I've got for today on this issue with the Connecticut gun confiscation. And it looks like it is moving towards confiscation. I realize it's not there yet. It's going that way. And if it's happening in Connecticut, it can happen in other places too. So with that being said, check back often for more videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace, love, and bacon.